Hello everyone, Neodleen here, and welcome back to the Edain mod. But not just any Edain mod, Edain 4.8. It got brought out just before the end of the year, and I have to say, this is probably the biggest patch the Edain team have ever made. I'm going to go over 3 big changes they've made. I'm not going to go over all the small changes that have gone for everywhere, but I'm just going to go primarily over the important changes that you'll notice very obviously. Some of them not so much, but these 3 are definitely big important changes that have been the whole center of this update. And if you haven't guessed, the main one, the first one, is the free build system. It has been returned, but only as an alternate game mode. Obviously, fixed building is still the primary playing of the system for the Edain mod. They've just decided to bring free build in as a optional addition, which I'm sure many people will be very happy about, because a lot of people do prefer the free build, and that's why a lot of people gravitate towards different mods like Age of the Ring. But yep, it's been returned, and it is honestly better than it ever was in vanilla. And if you haven't guessed, the main reason for that are the walls. As you can see, we have some archers stationed on the walls. You can actually walk on the walls by building these ramps off of your different wall hubs. All it does is cost you, well, 250 to start with. It can be decreased with Gondor thanks to the stone mason. And you also are only able to build them facing towards the citadel. You can't build them facing away from the citadel, because if you did, for example, you could build them out here if you wanted to, but that would be silly, because then you'll be leaving it yourself open for people to walk onto your walls and attack you directly. So it's a very nice little system there. You can also see here, not able to build them. That might also be because of the lack of range from there. But yeah, you can see it's actually fully blocked off. You cannot build these walls off to the other end from where your citadel is. Also, settlements, as you can see, not settlements, resource buildings have the 100 to 0% scaling, as you can see on here. The more space you have, the more you can, the more resources you gain, the more experience the resource buildings gain, and then, for example, more upgrades are available for certain resources. For Gondor, you still get your upgrades from the marketplace for purchasing the iron ore to then get your upgrades. However, you might have also noticed the marketplace doesn't have the forged workers and settlers tools. So these buildings only level up from natural experience gain. You cannot give them instant level ups and then they constantly stay at that level. If I was to destroy this settlement here, that townhouse, ignore the screaming children, and I was to rebuild it again. Also, I think the aura is a little bit smaller, which I also like. It actually gives you more space to build more buildings. I might be wrong on that. But yeah, this building will come back at level 1. And they're also what you need to have command points. So yeah, you should definitely get more of them. The only reason I'm currently at 8,000 is because of the fact that I used the cheat mode to get all this built up as fast as possible. But you know, that's just me. But yeah, all heroes, you can still only get them from the different buildings. Barracks gives you Beregond and Boromir. Archery range gives you Faramir, but also the stables can give you Faramir. Imrahil comes from the Border Stronghold, which, by the way, outposts still exist on the map. They are the only fixed points that still exist on the map. Settlements have been removed. And obviously, camp and castle expansions have been removed. You can only ever build your outposts on the outpost segments. So you can't get like Sword of Dol Amroth from a builder. That is not an option. But you can build your settlement buildings like farms and ranger tents. And yes, even signal fires where you can get Aragorn from. So Aragorn can potentially be even easier to get if you want to play a small defensive battle. Plus, they don't have any build aura, so you can build as many of them as you want and not have any detriment anywhere. Another small change that happened to Gondor, which I'm a little annoyed by because it means I don't no longer have my cheese. But yet, the errand riders, number of errand riders can actually go up to a can no longer be forced up by using Baragon's keep fighting ability. That has been removed. You can, however, just seem to get an infinite amount of them every 75 seconds. And the amount you need to pay are still the exact same. 8, 3, 3, 2, and 2. It's just that you now get them in this kind of number instead of them being a notch bar on top of the errand riders, similar to the ships, the transport ships. But other than that, everything else is pretty much the same. There are a lot of other updates for other factions. For example, the stonemason has a new thing called construct repair crane, where the repair crane actually that you can also build on your citadel. You can also have on here, which just means you can repair buildings and siege equipment in the area instead of having Numenor stonework, since it doesn't make sense to try and do anything with the walls. Which, by the way, yep, you can build trebuchets, you can build arrow towers, you can build postern gates, and you can build main gates off of these. However, you need a two-wall gap to build trebuchets or arrows, and you need a full wall to be able to build a gate. So you can't actually build anything else other than the gate on a wall segment you build a gate on. Postern gates are the easiest. They only need a 1 gap. But as you can see, the tower here takes up the entirety of here. And so does the trebuchet. And other than that, there's not really much else to talk about with the free build system, except for, obviously, as I said, every single faction has small little changes that to make it so they can all be incorporated into this free build system. And I'll be going over all of them in a different video in the future. But yeah, that's everything I want to talk about the free build. The next thing is technically also Gondor, but also not Gondor. And if you know what I mean, you'll know what I'm about to show. The next big thing about 4.8 is that Gondor has another sub-faction. Instead of Arnor, you can now also play as Belfalas on Belfalas designated maps. Which obviously it says Belfalas in the name. Which means the Principality of Dol Amroth is yours to command. Your troops are very much the same in terms of ability. They just have a very nice new design on each of them, to show that they are not the troops of Anorion, they are the troops of Belfalas. You also have a different type of elite troop. Instead of the Fountain Guard or Citadel Guard, you have the Tarnos Frontier Guard, and then the Swan Knights of Dol Amroth, which are your pike infantry. You also get, from the archer range, you don't have the rangers anymore, but you only have the Belfalas archers. But from one of your settlements, the new lighthouse, you get the Dol Amroth sailors, which are your equivalent of the rangers. You also have the siege works, which is exactly the same. But the stables is what really changes, because instead of having a outpost where you get your elite cavalry, your main stables can bring out your elite cavalry. The Dol Amroth Swan Knights, but also the Knights of Belfalas, which are the same as the Gondor Knights. You also have all new heroes. You have Amrophos, Lethiriel, Elthir, Imrahil with new abilities, and Erkirion. And I'll go over more about everything they can do in a highlight video for Dol Amroth, well, Belfalas in particular. You also get the Signal Fire, where you can get Aragorn, but only... Well, I say wish you could get Aragorn. It looks like they've actually changed it, because now you get Aragorn through the power Isildur's heir. You can get Faramir by summoning the Defenders of Heneth-Anum, which is how you get your rangers. Most of the power tree is the same. The Loyalists of Harandor is also different. You don't have rebuild. You instead summon some troops to improve the defenses of the building, including giving it some Harandor Loyalists to defend it. Oh yeah, assistance in times of need. Since they've changed how Beregond functions with the Signal Fire, they've actually changed it to 4 power points, which I think is crazy. It's already a powerful power. They've now just made it even more interesting to get early game. But yeah, Loyalists, Henethanoon Defenders, and Isildur's Heir, which is your version of the Rohan Answers, or the Army of Gondor for Arnor, where you get Eärnur and a army of troops. This gives you the mix of the Grey Company and Aragorn. So you get Halbarad, Elladan, Elrohir, Aragorn himself, and the Grey Company troops that boost your other troops just by having them exist nearby. And as you can see, that your scout hero, Amraphos, starts on a horse. The Firiel is meant to be your version of Denethor.
We must fight off Mordor.
Elfir is your version of Beregond.
There is much.
Imrahil is your new faction leader. Well, is meant to take the place of. I think it's meant to be the place of Boromir, which I think is wrong because you can actually get Boromir if you take a outpost. In fact, I have to actually show that now. So since I've said all that, let me just get rid of this. Control-Alt-Delete the cave troll there for a second, so I can prove that the Stronghold of Gondor is now replacing the Border Guard House. And as I said before, instead of getting Dol Amroth soldiers and Knights of Dol Amroth from your outpost, you now instead get a new, unique, not elite, sorry, no, not heroic, but elite infantry, the Osgiliath Veterans, which I have also shown off before in a previous video. And the Osgiliath Veterans are just a very roundabout unit of being good at everything. That is their purpose. You also get Gandalf, and unlike Arnor, you can turn into Gandalf the White, so you can go for the ring with Gandalf or with Boromir, as again I have showed in a beta version of this game. You get the Veterans of Osgiliath. You also get the Guardians of the White City. If you give Boromir the One Ring, you can get Boromir, who's exactly the same as he is for Gondor. You can get the same upgrades for your outpost as you would Dol Amroth. And as I said before, you can use Isildur's Heir, and it gives you Aragorn.
I know what hunts you.
But it only gives you his Aragorn LSR form, not the King of Gondor form. But this version has a new ability, Need Shall Drive Him. As prophesied by Malbeth the Seer over 1,000 years prior, Aragorn conquered the paths of the dead in great haste to aid Gondor against the Corsairs of Umbar. Allied units and heroes in his vicinity gain movement speed and resistance to fear and terror. Which means we have troops on zoomies. Look at them go. Look at them go.
You have my sword.
I hope they give that ability to Arnor as well, because I feel like the Gondor army was a bit slow on the uptake. You also don't have a lot of time with Aragorn, but I do remember in the beta version, after Aragorn had expired from his power, you could actually get him from the signal fire, which I'm ashamed has been removed, since you also still have the hero tab there. But it does make sense, because otherwise you could have Aragorn on the field, fully King Elisard out, but then also summon him again using Isildur's Heir. And then also Defenders of Henethanoon, as I said, summons Faramir and some Rangers. It's pretty much the same as Rohan's ability to summon Haldir and some Galadhrim. But Faramir only has one ability, his Crippling Shots, and Captain of Ithilien Rangers. Each enemy hit by his arrows takes 15% additional damage from all sources for 5 seconds. That just means if Faramir hits a troop, that troop is probably going to die a lot faster than it normally would. And let's show off the Loyalists of Harandor quickly. Where you get some, as you can see here, they come out the building. Some have long halberds, the others have swords. It's pretty much what Beregond used to do with the Guardians of the Third Company. Just a slightly smaller version, and it can be used from anywhere on the map, and also gives bonus defenses to the building. As you can see, it has a little blue tint. And that's everything I really want to show off for Belfalas right now. I want to show everything off properly in a video showing off everything all at once. I just wanted to go over all the main things I wanted to talk about in this one video. And the last thing, I wasn't expecting, I'm very glad they brought it in, but is it going to make much of a difference? And on to the last thing, we have Isengard. Isengard has had a small tweak in how it performs in certain ways. You have some new units, some new outposts. But honestly, not a lot has changed. But I think the amount of changes that have been made actually makes Isengard, it puts them in a good place. I think this might actually get them out of the lower rung. But it might not. I mean, some factions have to be declared, by me at least, in my opinion, just a little bit weaker. Doesn't mean they are bad to play, though. Okay, so let's go over everything that actually has changed. Firstly, as you can see, your main buildings have had a small design change. The furnace, I think, is the only building that might have had a small texture rework, but other than that, looks exactly the same. As you see, there's also this little dude here. That is actually a small little thing that they've just decided to do. Doesn't have any real impact on the game. You just see an orc walking between each of your settlements, from the mine that collects the iron to the furnace, where it's then smelted into its more ingot form. It's then taken over to the armory, where it's then sharpened and turned into swords, and then those swords are taken to the barracks, or your Uruk pit, where they are then put to use by your Urukai, which I think is just a small texture tweak that actually looks nice. Because obviously, Isengard was very busy. It was constantly working through just pure industry, burning through the Fangorn Forest to build an army of 10,000 Urukai to besiege Helm's Deep, but also had a mix of wildmen and such included. You can also see Isengard itself, Orthanc, has had a small textural change when you get the Citadel improvements. The Murder of Crows are the same. Excavation is the same as well, just gives you more resources from your Citadel. But Burning Forges is no longer a discount on your upgrades, since it doesn't make sense. You can get a discount on your upgrades by having several tier 3 furnaces, but instead gives you the ability of Perilous Vents. You can see these little vents here release this little aura, and all enemies in close proximity to the vent take continuous fire damage. Does not hurt us, does not hurt our buildings, it is only damaging our opponents. And next, I've already clicked on them, are the Edain Guards, which are pretty much a Isengard version of Gondor's Citadel Guard, not Citadel Guard, Guard of the Fountain Court, Fountain Guard, whatever you want to call them. They are the Guardians of Orthanc. They are Saruman's Guardians, and they are stronger when Saruman is nearby. And if he is in the tower, as long as the Orthanc Guard are on the field, Saruman recharges his spells faster. And as long as Saruman is garrisoned in the Citadel, the guards deal bonus damage and additional damage against units with heavy armor. So if you don't want Saruman on the field, you want him to just sit in the base, if he's still low level, for example, you now have a reason to actually have him in there, because now these units gain more damage and do more damage to late game troops that have already been given their upgrades, which just means they have Uruk type damage. At level 3, and Saruman has not entered the Citadel, the Guards of Orthanc were also charged with keeping watch over the Ring of Angranost, ensuring none could slip past Isengard's defenses. The target building slows enemies by 25%, reduces their damage by 25% 30 seconds. So a quick way of just stopping a few troops from just walking around destroying a building. You can slow them down and weaken them to then chase them down with, say, Wild Riders or these Guards of Orthanc. You also get the Jailers of Orthanc, which is if Saruman has entered the Citadel. Under orders from Saruman, the Guards of Orthanc take the target under custody. The target and enemies in its immediate vicinity are slowed and deal less damage. So you get a choice. You either target a building and your opponents are weakened, or you can target an enemy itself and everything around it will be slowed and deal less damage. Basically, say these are a very elite tier defensive unit, but also has increased damage just by having Saruman sitting atop his perch. Which again actually gives you a purpose for having Saruman on top of his perch, instead of, just being able to use all his abilities, which, as you can see, as I have the ring at the moment, I have a few different abilities. Then I'll take him off Orthanc again. And then if these were level 3, they would then be able to slow enemies near a certain building. Your Orokai Scouts are no longer, well, Orc Hunters are no longer classified as your only heroic troop. They're now just a pseudo-elite unit, which can get 4 in total still. They have not changed at all. But outside of that, as you can see, we also have a new outpost. The Dunlanding Encampment, or the Dunlanding Gaverstows is actually called. You still have your Clansteading, where you can recruit Wolfgar and your basic Wildmen. But you now have this outpost to give Wildmen a bit more of an edge into the mid and late game. Not so much that they actually become superior, but enough, just enough, that they don't feel like you have to have Wolfgar constantly on the field bucking them. You start once you make the building, you have 3 choices. You can either call to great campaign. Wolfgar calls all Wildmen to a great campaign to destroy the homes of their enemies. All Wildmen passively gain damage against buildings. Or call to great raid. Wolfgar calls all Wildmen to a great raid. All Wildmen passively steal additional resources with all building attacks. So they already have scavenger, or pillage even. Now they have a bonus pillage. Or call to great hunt. Wolfgar calls all Wildmen to a great hunt where the warriors can prove their worth. All Wildmen passively gather more experience. Now I don't know if these actually stack, but let's just get one of each. I'm fairly certain they don't stack because they are classified as a passive ability. And most passive abilities that have the same name don't actually stack. So I'm assuming that these are non-stacking abilities and you only want one of them anyway. Now, you can see here, Greater War Campaign. Support the Warriors of Dunland with upgrades from Saruman's war machinery. Banners of Wolf. Wildmen and Brutes within a large radius of the outpost. Gain damage, armor, and speed. Bonus remains for 30 seconds. So it's basically a heroic statue. March of the Clans. Driven into a frenzy by Saruman, the Dunlandings vow to fight until their enemies are defeated or the last of their blood is spent. All clan settings on the map reach level 3. Clan settings will passively increase the damage of all Dunland units on the map by up to 30%. And the Gaverstow is protected by additional 6 Spearmen. And then the Smelters of Angranost enables the purchase of heavy armor for all Dunland units and Wolfgar. That's right, Wolfgar, the Gigashad, no longer has a level 10 ability that allows you to upgrade all your Dunlandings instantly. You instead have to get this outpost and this building, which is an extra 600, to then be able to make your Dunlandings wear heavy armor, which puts them on par with basic Orokai, but much, much cheaper in the early game at least. Obviously, you can get the Orokai warriors pretty cheap if you build a bunch of mine shafts, up to 30% discount from 300 and 400. Which is still pretty decent. And then, obviously, they can get the captains with even more resources and spending at the armory. So they do eventually outshine your Dunlanding warriors. But this extra boost just gives them a little bit of something else to shine about. You also get the Brutes, which is your second heroic troop. That's right, you get 2 heroic troops, where once you had none. Isengard has finally got the things that we all wanted. And instead of having like an Orokai heroic troop, because heroic troops are meant to be like this symbol of power that has existed for some time in the faction. Gondor with their Fountain Guard, of the protectors of the Citadel and the White Tree. Rohan has their elite heroic cavalry, the guards of Meduseld and such. The dwarves have their own different types of elite that have their own purpose and reason. So it only makes sense that you have the men that have been protecting Orthanc since Saruman first arrived, and the elites are just even more powerful Dunlandings, who give them additional armor around them. After centuries of hostilities between the clans of Dunland and the Rohirrim, the Brutes have much experience in fighting mounted enemies. For 30 seconds they cannot be trampled or knocked back, and deal area damage and knock back with each strike. So they just become even bigger problems than they normally would be, just by keeping horsemen on their asses, basically. This is the ultimate counter, other than pikemen, to cavalry. And obviously, also, Smelters of Angranost allows you to recruit, to get heavy armor for the Brutes. Which I'm not actually sure if they have a different model design, but I'll show that off eventually when I play as Isengard properly. Other than these changes to the Wildmen, you also have a change to your power the ruthless exploitation. Instead of having a basic lumber mill, you now have this building called the timber yard. And this building is pretty much the same as what the normal, the ruthless exploitation lumber mill used to be. It has really no changes other than the fact that it is a new design to make it look more unique, because obviously the aura does kind of give it away that it is a special building that was made, and anything in the area will have reduced income other than obviously itself, which means if I was to build this right next to this mine shaft, which currently produces let's have a look 27 resources. If I build this right here, that 27 will go down to about, what, 5? It will greatly reduce the, to 7. That is a crazy amount. So you can use this as a way of harassing your opponent by just building it right next to their settlement that you don't want to attack yet. And then also, you can see the steelworks has been given a new design, which makes it look a lot more impressive than what it used to look like. You can see it's constantly got some flaps going up where smoke would be coming out of. But also, you can build your upgrades from the steelworks. You don't even have to build the armory to get your upgrades, other than obviously your tools for your settlement upgrades. But that does technically mean, if you have a steelworks, you don't need an armory in the free build system, because as I've already said, these upgrades no longer exist in the free build system, only in the fixed build system. But yeah, other than that, hardened armors, hardened weapons, and hardened bolts are all still the same. Still really impactful upgrades that make your units with forged blades, heavy armor, and steel bolts even stronger. And yes, increase the defensive units that have equipped with heavy armor. That, I assume, means if we have that and an army of Dunlendings, they will also have the heavy armor upgrade. The upgrade to the upgrade, which is a really nice touch. So, all in all, Isengard has had a big change. But there's still one more thing I haven't talked about, which is kind of a black sheep among the upgrades. This is a new settlement called the Work Tent, which has the ability called Heavy Industry. The production of the Work Tent is bound to the technological advancements of Isengard. It produces fewer resources than other economy buildings, but generate 10% additional income once the following upgrades have been researched. And that doesn't mean just 10% for all of them. That means 10% for each. Banner carriers, forged blades, heavy armor, steel bolts, and Uruk captains. Upgrade all of those, you get a 50% increase. So currently, this building is making, if I can see it, 23 resources. Compare that to the level 1 mine, which was 27. 4 resource difference. So in the early game, you don't want it. But if I was to build the Settlers tools, let me just speed this up quickly. If I was to build the Settlers tools all the way to Forged level, this building now currently makes 34. And if I were to remove this quickly, to see how much this makes now at base, this will make 40. So that's now a 6 resource difference. So it's a very minimal difference. But now I get banners, heavy armor, steel bolts, forged blades, Uruk captains. This building now makes 55 resources. 55! That is 15 resources more just for having upgraded bought all your basic upgrades that you would normally only have for your troops to make your troops better. If you've decided this is the time where you start wanting to be building work tents, that is the strategy. Build work tents. I feel like now the strategy is ignore furnaces, go all mine shafts in the base to decrease the cost of your Urukai in the early game. Once you've got tier 3 forge tools, then think about upgrading getting furnaces, maybe on outposts. But obviously now you've got two additional outpost choices. It's going to be very difficult to have a basic outpost as Isengard these days. But now you also get an economical bonus. Let's also use industry. Oh god, my throat's going. 164! That is insane. That is insane levels of economy. That is more economy than our steelworks, which is 113 at the moment. That is crazy levels of economy. I'm so excited to start getting economy at this level without needing our little hidden hero here. Anyway, that is the final thing I want to talk about in this video. We've now seen the free build system has been fully implemented. Gondor now has a new sub-faction in Belfalas, which is a very fun time. I've played them already a bit before the patch. But even now, they've had a few other tweaks I can't wait to get into. And now Isengard has a few things that have changed that make them better in nearly every way. And I'm so excited to get to play all of this. And I hope you've all been having fun playing it already. And if you haven't seen everything that this update has to offer, I hope this video has helped you see everything there is to offer. There is technically a few other small things dotted here and there that you'll see as time goes on. But I want to talk about them separately on their own. And I will be going over all of these updates again, separately, in their own videos, to give you a broader picture of exactly what's changed and why I think this is the biggest and probably will remain the biggest change the Edain team have made. And I am so excited that for the future as well, because I don't think this is the end. I think they've still got a few more things planned out before the end. Obviously, I don't know anything at the moment. I just want to say I'm happy with this update. I'm happy all around. No complaints. Really, really happy. Hope you're all enjoying as well and are very happy with this patch. And I will see you all in the next video.